Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. It's a great pleasure to be joined today by the founder and chairman of IDSF, Brigadier General Amir Avivi. General, thank you so much for joining.
A pleasure.
Many of our viewers have been sending in questions as usual, so we're going to try to cover as many questions today, General, with your permission, and try to really answer what people want to know. And the first question I want to start off with is, I know something that you've been speaking about a lot here in Israel, which is right now we're just in this waiting game. We're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for Iran or for Hezbollah to strike. And to what extent should Israel change the focus, and rather than wait to be attacked, should Israel be going on the offensive? What are your thoughts on that, please?
So, theoretically speaking, we have three options. One option is similar to April, when Iran attacked us with 300 rockets and cruise missiles and UAVs. At that time, we waited. We built a coalition with the US, with countries in the Middle East, and we waited. We dealt with the attack, and then there was some kind of retaliation, not a very strong one. Why? Because in April, we were still completely invested in Gaza. We were not in Rafah yet. We understood that the strategy that says we need to win decisively first in Gaza and then go maybe from defense to offensive in other fronts like the North or the East was the right strategy. This is what we did in April. We're not at this stage. The strategy we had in April is not necessarily the right one now, because now in Gaza, and we'll go later on deeply about what's going on in Gaza, but in Gaza things are stabilized. We are winning decisively. We closed Gaza. We closed Philadelphia. We destroyed all their industrial capabilities. We're killing dozens and dozens of terrorists every day, and Hamas will be destroyed. I mean, even if we decide now to shift the center of attention to the north and leave less forces in Gaza, it will prolong the time we'll win, but we will win in Gaza anyway, and they cannot rebuild themselves in the reality we created now in Gaza. So the second option is not waiting for them to shoot. If we see them getting organized, we do a preemptive attack, but it's a preemptive attack focused on the capabilities they are preparing. So if we see missiles being taken out and ready to shoot or things like that, we can attack and do a preemptive attack. That is not a full-scale war. It is intended to stop the specific attack they're going to do, just as we do almost every day in Judah and Samaria, when terrorists want to carry out a terror attack and we target them. We did that this week several times, even from the air, killing terrorists in cars that were already on their way to carry out a terror attack. But there is also a third option. And the third option is shifting the whole strategy, saying, okay, 10 months, we focused on Gaza, we were on the defense in other fronts. Now it's time to shift to the north and deal with Hezbollah on a full-scale war. And this will require a full-scale attack on Hezbollah on all its capabilities in Lebanon, and the ground incursion into South Lebanon to destroy Hezbollah in South Lebanon. These are the terms needed to bring back our displaced citizens, tens of thousands, back home safely. I think that because of where we are now in the war in Gaza, we can also consider, if Iran shoots, to retaliate on a much bigger scale. For example, hitting their oil production capabilities, their ports, or nuclear sites. We can take advantage of this moment if they shoot and attack seriously sites that are strategic, and we want to deal with them. So this is what the cabinet and the army need to consider. These are the options. the level of readiness is high. I think the worst option is to wait. The worst option is not doing anything, just waiting, because then they can launch a massive attack and without any preemptive strike. This might cost us heavily in lives and infrastructure, and this is something that the cabinet and the army need to take in account.
So option one is to wait, not a good option. Option two is to preemptively strike their assets that are on the verge of attacking. And option three is to preemptively strike on a broader scale. So of those two latter options, which is necessary to allow the residents of the North to return to their homes? Is option two sufficient, or are you advocating for option three?
No, the only option that enables us to bring back home safely the citizens is a full-scale attack on Hezbollah on all its capabilities all over Lebanon, and a ground incursion into South Lebanon to destroy Hezbollah and push it north of the Litana. This is the only option. And the question is, does the cabinet and the army feel that this is the right timing? And also need to take in account that if we don't do it, we don't attack first, they might do that on a full-scale level, and then it's a whole different scenario. It's completely different. Our big advantage, we can bring it about only if we are the ones attacking first. It's a very different scenario if they attack on a big scale first. And this is something we need to take in account. I hear many people saying they don't want war. They're not interested in a full-scale war. I'm not sure it's true. I think that Iran and Hezbollah definitely want a war. They think that they have a very narrow window of opportunity until the elections in the US. They don't know who will be elected. They are very worried that Trump will be elected again. And they don't know if he's elected, what will be the policy as of January. And the policy might be a complete change in all the global regional situation, and obviously not something that will be good for them. So they look at this window of opportunity. They say to themselves, we have been building these capabilities for decades. We have Russia with us. We have backed up by the Chinese economy. This is our moment. We see a weak US, not willing to pose a credible military threat, not really willing to be offensive, only on the defense. And in this case, they are definitely considering a full-scale attack on us, and we cannot afford another 7th of October. We need to be the ones that attack first.
And the cabinet has not yet set goals for this war in Lebanon. Is that forthcoming? Are they on the verge of making those decisions, or are they still focused on Gaza?
Well, we don't know of any goals that have set. We don't have even a declaration of war. We are fighting in the north 10 months, and the situation is bad. We have all citizens displaced. The towns are being destroyed. We have people injured, killed. We saw 12 children being killed in the Golan Heights. We had 18 people injured in the last attack of a UAV in Nahariya. They attacked bases also. They attacked the Golani base. So the situation is not good at all. And to change it strategically requires full-scale war, not just a pinpointed operation, not just a small retaliation. What we did do, we killed many leaders of Hezbollah, including the chief of staff. We did hit infrastructure. We did bring back freedom of operation for the Air Force in Lebanon, destroying air defense capabilities. So we set really the scene for a full-scale war. We did a lot in 10 months. And this is the best timing we have, whether it's this week, in a month or two. But eventually, we'll have to fight, and we need to be the ones with the initiative.
So I'm curious if you could share with all of our viewers, here in Israel, IDSF is quite a sizable operation at this point. and you work extensively to promote a certain agenda within this war. I'm curious if you can just briefly share, how do you get your vision to, be taken into account, or to really come to fruition here in Israel? Is it about meeting with policymakers? Well, what is in general, in a minute or two, the way that happens?
So we are an authoritative voice, talking about a movement, the grassroots movement, and think tank of high-ranking officers and commanders, researchers, professors, doctors, and we invest a lot in research, in policy papers. We meet a lot. We talk to our guys that are on the field. In all of the commands at the moment, we have our people embedded in very important positions. And so we get a very clear picture of what the situation is and insights about what should be done. We couple this with research, with our way of thinking, and we package it in a way that it can be presented to decision makers, whether it's the Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, Chief of Staff, Head of Mossad, diplomats. This week we had two diplomat briefings, and we meet ambassadors. We go to European Union, Washington. So we're engaging both with the Israeli leadership, but also the international community. And we also, when we talk in the media, our politicians watch it. I remember several times when I sat with my generals with Netanyahu. We were sitting, and as we were speaking to him, he was watching Channel 14. He likes to watch patriotic, and we are a lot on this show. So sometimes if I don't have a meeting that week with the Prime Minister or Minister of Defense, it's enough that I speak in patriotism and they hear what we have to say and they understand. And I remember once that I said something the Prime Minister didn't like. A minute later, I had a WhatsApp from his assistant. So, hey, why did you say that? And so that they put a lot of attention in what we say. And we really try to be very accurate, very professional, take into account everything. I think that one of the things that as a professional worries me the most, because I know that the Prime Minister listens to us, I feel a big responsibility to give him the right advice. And in order to give the right advice, you really need to be in depth in the details. You need to know the picture. If you don't have the details, you cannot advise anything. You cannot assess the situation. Assessment is based on you knowing the facts, having the knowledge. So we invest a lot of time in talking to our people in the field, in really discussing issues. And these are complicated issues. When I presented now these three options, it's not so easy to decide what's the right option. There are many things to take in account, including the position of the administration, including the messaging of what they would like to see. Of course, munition, amount of forces, what's going on in Gaza. There are many things to take in consideration. These are not easy decisions. There is no black and white here. It's not one answer. But in the art of war, when we are not sure what to do, attack. That's the solution. It's always a good solution. Always being proactive is a good solution. So we need to be proactive.
For sure. So, okay, so you are a seasoned warrior. Explain to all of us, when Nasrallah puts out posts on social media in Hebrew, how do you view that? What are the meanings of those posts? Should anyone pay any attention to them?
The Iranians, Hamas, Hezbollah, they take very, very seriously psychological war. They are, by the way, they're much better than us in conducting psychological war. We excel at really confusing them because the discussion in Israel, especially in the media, nobody can understand what's going on. Then they get confused. But we're not good at psychological war. They are. They try to create fear in the society, anxiety. They are happy not to shoot immediately and retaliate immediately because they want to see the people afraid, waiting, not knowing what will happen for a week or two. And they threaten they will attack in Tisha B'Av. They know that this is the date that both temples were destroyed. It's a very sad date for Israel, for the Jewish people. And nobody told them that this is also the date of birth of the Messiah. But we'll see how this date works. So basically, they try to really put psychological pressure on Israel. And to a certain extent, it works. But overall, I can say I've been the last week in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, in different places. Pubs are full, coffee shops are full, malls are full. Israelis, at least in the center, I'm not talking about the north that is wrecked, but in the center, people are continuing their lives, but getting ready. People bought things, they put it in home, maybe organize more cash, and so on. But there is no panic. I don't see panic in Israel at the moment. And this is good. The people are very resilient. I can say that in the last polls we saw this week, the vast majority of the Israeli people says will fight as long as needed. Even if it takes years, we want to win. We want to really deal seriously with the challenges, not do just a ceasefire and then a year later we have war again. No, they want to see a decisive win, and they're willing to sacrifice for it. They're willing to continue fighting and knowing what it means. We have a very, very resilient society.
Absolutely. And I want to thank all of our viewers who are sending in their questions in the chat or to my phone or to my email. And a reminder, if you're watching this briefing and appreciate it, please share it with a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to our channel. It really helps us at this critical time get the truth out. General, the word has been that Sinwar has now been appointed as the chairman of the Hamas Political Bureau. What does that mean to you in terms of Sinwar's leadership still after many months of fighting?
Well, that we need to kill him as soon as possible. And the fact that now this leadership is not two people, it's one, I think it's a big advantage. Because if we manage to kill him, the impact will be even bigger. There are maybe 2 or 3 remaining terrorists that if we target, this pretty much leaves Hamas with no leadership. So there is really a lot of effort of the Shin Bet, the army, and Mossad, to really do everything possible to find Sinwar, his brother, the brigade commander of Gaza, really the spokesman, the remaining people. Every day, almost every day, we target a battalion commander, company commander, or something like that. Our intelligence is getting better and better. The army is moving steadily, destroying the infrastructure underneath Rafah and the Khan Yunis. We saw, by the way, in the last week, after we killed Muhammad Def and supposedly killed also Ania in Iran, they really try to shoot something, to show they have some kind of capability. They manage with one rocket launcher, to shoot 40 rockets, the same rocket launcher, each time 10 rockets. Took us some time to relocate it and destroy it. So for a day, 2 or 3, they managed to shoot again and again from exactly the same place. But looking at the intelligence we have, they're almost left with no capabilities, no rockets. They cannot rebuild themselves. And I see a growing optimism that we're on the way of decisive victory in Gaza, which is excellent. We just need to continue to do what we're doing. We're moving steadily towards victory. We need to continue attacking. The only thing we need to do, a part of that, is take civil control of Gaza, because at the moment, in the last 10 months, the humanitarian aid we're bringing, we just send it in, and Hamas takes over the humanitarian aid and controls the society through this aid, and of course feeds its terrorists. It's very bad. I'm very disappointed with the army that they are not moving towards controlling Gaza civically. It's endangering our soldiers, it's endangering our hostages, and I wish to see the cabinet ordering them to do it.
What is the reservation, the hesitation on the army having that civic control of Gaza? Why would they not want to do that?
They tell themselves a story which I think has no connection to reality, that if they do that, they need huge amount of forces to manage this. I can say that we did that between 1967 to Oslo. We had much less forces than now, even now, and it simply was a headquarters that was working with Kogat and had to coordinate these civilian operations. When you talk about civilian operations, logistics, you can work also with contractors and so on. You don't need soldiers for that. So I don't understand this position. We took all our top experts talking about what it means to really manage the civil side of Gaza. We prepared a paper showing a completely different point of view than what the army is saying. And this is important, that we can show the Prime Minister and Minister of Defense completely different approach, and that maybe will convince them to do the right thing.
General, let me ask you, is there a scenario where the IDF has a long-term presence and operation in Gaza, but does not get involved in the humanitarian and the civil administration? Or does it have to be both at the same time? And can you kind of compare that to what happens in Judea and Samaria in terms of operational presence and or not necessarily being involved, let's say, in the civil running of Jenin or of Hebron?
So basically, we set a goal of war that says, unlike the fact that the Palestinian Authority is running all civil aspects of the Palestinian society in Judea and Samaria, the Palestinian Arabs, in Gaza, we said the day after there will be no Hamas. Hamas is not going to govern Gaza. And we also said Palestinian Authority is not going to govern Gaza. So it's obvious that we need to build some kind of local new leadership, which at present doesn't exist. Now, to reach this point, in order to reach the goal of war that says that Hamas will not govern Gaza, Israel must step in and govern Gaza, even if it's for a week, a month, a year, 2 years. And then, step by step, you can work on building local leadership. Now, even at day one, Israel would rather work with a local municipality, with a local clan. I mean, Israel will do anything possible to not deal with really everyday life. We're not going to deal with cleaning the roads. or garbage, or I don't know. All the cities in Gaza have municipalities. They have some kind of local leadership, and from day one we'll try to work with them. But this is a process. Now, at least talking about the humanitarian aid, this is something we need to control. We need to control this. We cannot have this aid going to Hamas. And also we need to control it in a way that motivates the Palestinians in Gaza to work with us, to give us back the hostages, to point to us where the leadership of Hamas is, to understand that we are running things and not Hamas. Even psychologically, it's a crucial thing to do.
General, thank you. Let me ask a final question before we sign off today. Who would finance that operation? If Israel is intimately involved in that level of administration in Gaza, does that mean Israel's paying for it as well?
No, I think that as it's going on now, it will be international aid. And also, I can tell you that in Judah and Samaria, we take taxes from the Palestinians. We collect the tax. So all the money we get as taxes, we can invest back in the people. But I'm sure there will be huge amounts of money that the world will be willing to invest, but we need to make sure that, unlike what happened in the last 20 years, it's not going to be invested in tunnels, rockets, improvised explosive devices, and building an army, but actually in civilian issues, infrastructure, and also in a process of de-radicalizing the society. You cannot de-radicalize the people without Israel controlling and fully involved in this process.
Brigadier General Amir Avivi, thank you so much for joining this briefing. Thank you for sharing all of that, and thank you for your leadership in bringing Israel to decisive victory. Thank you to all of our viewers, all of our supporters for tuning into this briefing. We will be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.